Hello, welcome to my video assignment. My name is Luis Claudio Marcos Barcellos and we are in spring 2019. My first article is Humphreys 2002, Some Notions, Stories and Tales about Music and Education in Society, the coin's other side. The purpose of the paper. Because it was not a database paper, but a presentation at Society for Research in Music Education, SRME, it does not explicitly state the purpose. However, at the end of page 1, he states that he will talk about several things that relate to attitudes toward music and music education. Some attitudes have worked well and some have not. So Humphrey makes a number of observations about aspects of music education and its relationship with the society it attempts to serve. So it's basically a reflection of music education as a field, its approach, attitudes, and how to change in order to better fulfill its role in the 21st century. Important related literature. Humphreys doesn't use a big reference list, not on this paper, but there is relevant information for a curious reader, such as Butt's 1955 Cultural History of Western Education, Britain's 1966 The Singing School Movement in the United States, Gardner's 1993 Frame of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligence, and a few of Humphrey's articles, such as Instrumental Music in American Education, 92, Precursors of Musical Aptitude Test, 93, and On Teaching Pigs to Sing, 1999. He presents a few numbers in statistical and formal education in the US, but he doesn't reference it. So, methods used. It is difficult to find evidence for a certain method of historical research because the article is a speech, but I would say Humphreys used what Tilly from 1999, as cited in Vogue 2003, calls a large-scale humanistic approach when he looks at music education in American society. Well, Humphrey starts with an overall critical view and then narrows it down to a few notions, stories, and tales, as written in the title, in order to make specific criticism, especially when it comes to, quote, music educators imposing music taste and music choices on others. According to him, quote, the problem is that we have failed to ask people what they want. The article closed with a big call to action. It's time to try a different approach. Well, Humphrey calls to action is the biggest takeaway from the article. Why? The historian calls music educators, and he includes himself in the group, to embrace the now, to aim for more choices for students, curriculum variety, to foster new and different ideas, and to experiment and research these ideas. Because if we, music educators, don't ride the crest and don't lead the way, he predicts, this will be imposed on us. Well, specific details on the potential relationship to my research. Well, this article really speaks to me because I'm a true advocate for opening the menu of choices for music education in the classroom. I have worked with world music and popular music all my life outside school, and for 15 years as inside schools, especially international schools. I have run garage band practice, samba band after school activities, songwriting clubs, and all kinds of music practice for primary and secondary school. So I'm a witness of how successful a music program that embraces diversity can be. I have always listened to my students, and I have learned a great deal with them. And I intend to investigate it further here in the US. Well, second text, Cox, 2002, A House Divided? Music Education in the United Kingdom during the Schools Council era of the 1970s. Purpose of the paper. The purpose of Cox's paper is to investigate two specific curriculum development projects in music that came to symbolize the division between a subject-centered model of music education and a child-centered music model in the UK during the 1970s. Cox used Swanwick as a reference to define the two models. Subject-centered is represented by skills, literacy, and the values of the Western music tradition. Child-centered encompassed experiment, creativity, and emphasis upon contemporary developments in music. Does it ring a bell? Well, important literature. As I mentioned, Swanwick, 1977 article, book chapter, Belief and Action in Music Education. Painter and Aston, 1970, Sound and Silence, Classroom Projects in Creative Music. And School Council's Working Paper, a survey of the present state of music in primary school from the Reading University. Well, he also cited a lot of the music education secondary school curriculum consultative committee meetings from 1974, 75, 78 in order to contextualize what was going on in the debate by the time. Well, methods used. Cox looked at the decade of the 1970s with the aim of investigating the curriculum change that represented this battle between the two models. The models were represented by Reading and York universities. Well, basically his method was government sources. Yeah, he got a lot of minutes from music committees, school council's reports, secondary school curriculum, and the school council's working paper from Reading. One of the documents mentions a disconnection between music in school and music outside the school in England in the 70s. Does it ring a bell? Because Cox knows, like Volk and her historical layer cake, that history does not take place in vacuum. He established the context of what was happening in England in the 70s. Well, it was a stormy period in England's history, marked by oil crisis, minor strikes, and radical cuts that particularly impacted in the education. The historian poses three questions to guide his investigation. What was the context? What were the similarities and difference between the two models? And what can we learn from the study? Well, the findings, both models were connected with significant government reports and addressed the so-called music education crisis. The researchers at Reading University were based in the Department of Education, influenced by aptitude testing and interested in developing a scientific research and a curriculum to be implemented by non-specialist teachers. While the researchers at University of York were from the School of Music and had musicians' approach or a composer's approach. They were against formal evaluations and focused on music as an oral experience. The two projects had a different emphasis on teachers' roles as well. At Reading, it was a researcher-led top-down project, while in York, it was a teacher-centered. It was the teachers in the pilot schools who initiated materials and ideas. The scope was also different. In York, they wanted to exchange the boundaries of music teaching, embrace art integration, explore how schedules could be different, or make new music rooms. While in Reading, the project was less global and focused only on music literacy in the primary schools, and it didn't really attempt to change methodologies. Well, specific details of potential relationship. Since my main focus is on exploring the teaching and learning of popular music in the classroom, I have started looking at Green's book on informal learning and the ways that popular musicians learn. Using some of the methods learned in this course, I started by looking in order to contextualize Green's idea and figuring out how it fits in with British music education history. So I was looking back a little bit before Green, what was happening. According to Painter, the main name for the University of York module, the only rule in music was the ear. Well, one can definitely hear echoes of Painter's idea on Green's initial writings on music on deaf ears, 1988, and how popular musicians learn, from 2001. The truth is, like Heller and Wilson have clearly put it, there is no reinventing of the wheel in music education. So informal versus formal, rote versus note, child-centered versus subject-centered, it has all been here for a long time. Like a dog trying to bite its tail, we continue to run in circles. Well, my third and last article, Humphreys, 2015, Energizing the Bird Story of Public School Music in the United States. Some ideas on how to amp it up. Purpose of the paper? The purpose of the paper is to energize, add vitality to, and generally amp up, and better, to challenge the scope, findings, conclusions, facts of the history of public school music in the United States by Edward Bailey Burge. According to Humphreys, among the most important tasks of historians is the challenging of assumptions, paradigms, methods, conclusions, and facts of other scholars. The method used. Humphreys ran a content analysis of the first book on the history of music in American schools, looking at specific issues such as multiple storyline, assumptions that need revision, enlarging the scope to include music education outside of schools, clarifying contradictory stories, the methodology, and the legacy left by Bird's story to the field. One can see how, besides criticizing the book, Humphreys delivers a tremendous history lesson. Findings. Among other things, Humphreys suggests that music educators should stop treating history books such as Bird's and Mark and Gary's as an ultimate authority in music education history. Instead, these books should be challenged. Although truly indispensable, they should be tested. He acknowledges music educators' good job at resisting to postmodernist ideology and states that the large ensembles model works, and that music educators should not try to destroy it, but build from it. Humphreys defends history as a viable topic and differentiates qualitative research to historiography, and affirms that there is plenty of topics to be researched in music education histories. Yeah, we know. And finishes, we do this work for the joy it brings, not for the practical results. By looking at how we came to be where we are, we can improve understanding where we're heading. Specific details on my potential relation. I really connected to some of Humphreys' ideas. After reading this article, I started searching for more of his material and for some of the reference cited in the article. It was a great introduction to the aspects of music education history, although we haven't spent a lot of time on it in class. The article not only connected to my ideas and inspired me to dig deeper, but it set up a new research agenda for me. When he mentioned the scarce literature on the music education of the South, and that the popular music that originated in the American South became, quote, the most important music in the world, close quotes, I started asking questions about this topic. For example, what was happening in Afro-American culture before the emergence of the rhythm and blues, for example? What was jazz legacy in the process? What about mountain music or country music? How did it all combine to make what millions of kids all around the world call rock and roll? 1 year ago, I was teaching Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock to kids in the American school in Rio de Janeiro. Elvis, Chuck Berry, Bob Dylan, Guns N' Roses, Kiss, White Stripes. And guess what? The fifth graders loved it. They couldn't get enough of it. I guess Humphreys is right. The powerful popular music from the American South has made it, despite music educators' disdain. Thank you for listening. Subscribe.